Hello YouTubers, this channel is all about RV living, traveling, and do-it-yourself projects. Please hit the subscribe button below. Hello everybody, today is the load test. I'm so excited, so let's get started. First, let's set the table for the load test with a little data. Ambient temperature today is 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Since the batteries have been stored inside, unfortunately, the battery temps are around 76 to 77 degrees. The ambient temperature does rise by the end of the test to about 85 degrees Fahrenheit several hours later. The batteries were fully charged over 5 weeks ago before I put them in the holders. The readings I took this morning were as follows. 4 of the packs were 4.19 volts and 3 of the packs were 4.18 volts. The breaker switch I just flipped connected the battery to the inverter. The inverter will boot up and the charge controller will boot up. But during these 2 days that I'm going to do this load test, I'm going to keep the charge controller off. I've got the breaker from the solar panel down to the charge controller turned off. So there will be no charging during this load test. I want to deplete this battery down to 25.9 before I charge it. I want to do a low balance charge on it. So it's starting out at 29.2 volts, and the refrigerator I had running on the other battery before I pull it out of here, and it's still at 45 degrees. You'll see by the end of the day it'll get. I actually use that refrigerator as a freezer. I have it set at 28 degrees, and you'll see by the end of the day that temperature will go down to around 28 degrees. I'm starting the test off with the microwave here in a minute. I'm taking all the ambient temperatures now. The floor, that white floor in the back of the garage area of the RV was reading around 80 degrees. And I'm not sure if you can see it. If I get any angle on that meter, you can't read it. The back of the refrigerator is the warmest because it's been running for a while. But these batteries all, I tested a few out of each pack, and they're all around 76 to 77 degrees. And here in a moment, I'll leave this camera and I'll go inside and I'll start the microwave up, and it will run. I had a fail at the beginning of this recording, this test, and I tripped the breaker that connects the battery to the inverter. That's a 100 amp breaker. It's an automotive breaker. It's a breaker switch, and it will trip here in a minute, and you'll see it trip. In fact, it has already tripped. The microwave was set to run for 3 minutes. It got to 2 minutes 54 seconds when it tripped that breaker. The only thing I can figure out what caused that breaker to trip was that there's 2 connections on it. On the other side, that cable had originally been connected to a combiner switch which had a 3/8 eyelet, and that breaker needs a 1/4 inch eyelet. So my theory is that eyelet's way too big, and when I read the heat readings, the temperature on that eyelet was 87 degrees. It had raised 7 degrees Fahrenheit. So most likely what I did, I corrected that and tightened everything down, and then run the exact same test again, and the amperage it was drawn was around 47 amps at 27 volts, I believe it was. And you'll see that coming up here shortly. So I start the microwave again for 3 minutes, and it runs, and I do not run into any issues. During that test, I am checking these batteries. The batteries have risen now about 1 degree, but they still have not gotten to ambient temperature yet. So the temperature rise, I'm not sure, and that's the reason this is not a scientific test, because everything should be at the same temperature to start out. But ambient temperature at this point is around 81 degrees. It's a nice day here in Texas, and I run that for 3 minutes. And during the test, I'm also testing all the connections, all the bus bars, and making sure I don't have any temperature rise in any of the connections. And so far, I haven't found none. Other than on that breaker, I am seeing, once I corrected the problem, I think the temperature on that breaker was around 86, 85. It stayed about that much. And this is with the
1 minute remaining.
With the microwave running. You notice it's pulling 1100 watts, 120 volts at 10 amps, and from the battery it's drawing 27.2
That's quite a bit more battery lag than I expected.
While I was running this test, I was making notes verbally, and I just made that note of the lag. Now, what battery lag is, when a battery is at rest and it's fully charged, it will be reading its full charge. But when you dump a load on it, a battery will drop down, and it's called the lag. The lag term came from electric cars, electric bikes, but it's the voltage drop during the introduction of the load. And with the microwave on, I was experiencing about 1.8 volt lag with the microwave running. So the next test for the load test is the induction stovetop. I'm going to cook a pot of coffee, and it's going to run for 20 minutes. I'm going to bring the coffee pot up to temperature, up to boiling point, and then you'll see me on this meter, it'll drop off when I lower the temperature on the induction stovetop to 200 degrees, just under boiling point of 210. You'll see the amperage drop just a little bit. This stovetop at medium at 375 degrees, I believe it is, it pulls about 780 watts, which is about 30 amps. And I'll run this for about 10 minutes. And then I'll drop it down and I'll run another 10 minutes. Well, this is at the end of day one test. The ambient temperature was about 85 degrees. Surprisingly, the battery still did not get up to 80 to the ambient temperature. They were running about 83. The breaker switch that it tripped earlier that morning, it was reading only 87 degrees there at the end of the day. So let's recap all the wattage we used, and then we'll jump over to day two. So into day one, I used 1443 watts. There was one item I didn't show in a video, was the rice cooker. And I actually cooked some rice, and it only burns 150 watts per hour, and it turns itself off after 20 minutes. And this is what I use to cook beans, soup, spaghetti. I use it more than anything else. And I realized after running all these tests today, I do not use near this much power every day. But if I wanted to, I could. So tomorrow morning we'll get the voltage after the refrigerator runs all night, and then we'll start the test again. And we will take a look at that. Day two begins. The battery was reading around 26.9 on the second day. And this is a little bit off subject, but it's an opportunity to show you better what the fuses look like when they were installed. I made sure that when I soldered the wire to the battery itself, that the fuse was up, so if it had any vibration, it wouldn't be vibrating on anything. That's about the best shot I can give you. So the readings on each cell, I disconnected everything, took a reading, and so to my surprise, everything was totally balanced. It was, every cell read 3.85. The ambient temperature this morning was about 82 degrees, but surprisingly, the batteries themselves were a couple degrees below ambient temperature, and I don't really understand that. The calculated voltage was 26.9, and the reading I was getting inside was 26.9. So day 2 test included a usage of 1320 watts. I didn't run the rice cooker, and I only ran the microwave for a total of 4 minutes this day. And I ran the induction of stovetop for 40 minutes. And of course the refrigerator will run all night again tonight, and I'll check the voltage again in the morning. And so then we'll check day 3. Finally, the beginning of day 3, and I'm cooking another pot of coffee. And after this pot of coffee is done, you'll see me, I just shut it off. And I'm fixing to start the microwave for 1 more minute. But the voltage is down to 26.4, and whenever the load is applied, it drops the battery down below 25. I mean, I think right at 25. We'll see here in just a second. And when it does, after about 10 seconds into the microwave being on, it throws a low battery warning, and a fault comes on, and it should be occurring here pretty soon. There it goes. I start the microwave, and a few seconds into this microwave, it throws the fault, and that's the end of my test. Well, let's wrap this up. So the third day I only spent 316 watts. Total usage for all 3 days was 3,080 watts. And I was really happy with that. Of course, there's a lot left in this battery. After the test, I tested all of the batteries, and each cell read 3.74 volts, which was better than I expected. I figured I'd have a couple that was a little bit different, but they all read the same. I didn't quite get to the 25.9, but I got close enough. And I know this video was long. Thanks for hanging in here if you made it this far. But I wanted to share all the information I had on this battery. And today I will start installing the batteries. I'll probably do a video on that and how I'm going to tie it down and install it in the van. And it shouldn't take me more than a day, and then the next day I will start the charging with the solar cell. And I'll probably do a video on that as well. So until next time, check you later.